Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hey guys, it's Stacy Barnett from Canine Detection Collaborative, and buckle up because we are about to listen to the second half of a fabulous interview, and we're going to learn all about how she teaches tracking, a little bit into how she develops confidence, and we're also going to touch on the challenges from about being a competitor at that level. So listen on in.
So I have a huge question, and that question is, how?
Okay.
This is a little question.
It's not a little question.
No, it's a very little question.
It's a one-word question.
It's 3 letters. How hard can that be? Summarize all your 1989 to today for us and what to do and how.
Okay. Well, from liver to
dragging wet liver.
Man.
No, really though, when you said confidence building and problem solving, I think about one of the big trainers that I see right now that's prevalent on the Schutzen groups is Lars. And what I see, and I don't know it because I don't follow. I mean, I haven't gone to his seminars. He's had several even local, but you'll see the pup and they go to the footprint and there's a leash pop and they eat the food. They go to the next footprint on the left and it's a leash pop and they eat the food, and they go to the footprint on the right, and it's just repeated that way. And most trainers, I think of IGP tracking as a very obedience thing, because would you say it's a natural way for dogs to track?
No, not at all.
So we have to take something, their superpower, and have them channel that in a non-natural way.
Right.
So how do you do it?
Well, that's a good seminar right there.
Yeah.
From a baby puppy's perspective, when you're doing the food in every footstep, it is, I guess, an obedience exercise. You are teaching muscle memory. You are teaching, you're more or less luring the dog into a behavior that you want to eventually expand on. And the best way I can equate that to is healing, right? With competition healing, we're using food or a toy or some sort of a lure to get really a natural body carriage of the dog with their head up and their prancy and whatnot. That's, my Border Collie would much rather keep his head level, but it's hard for him to keep his head up. So we're luring the dog, we're teaching them through obedience. And when they go off of the track, when a baby puppy goes off the track, I just stop them from going off. I just block them. I become a brick wall. So we do that about 1,000 times. And then
with your leash or your body?
With my leash. I just stop my body from moving. And I guess in dressage, I would just bend my elbow, just stop or close my hand around the leash.
How far away are you?
Very close.
Okay.
I'm holding a 6-foot leash. I'm very close to the dog. So I'm really kind of like helicoptering over the dog and just making sure that we don't miss a footstep, because that's really important. We want that foundation to be very solid. So later, when we are teaching the dog that they can solve a problem when we are 33 feet away. So in a trial, like you mentioned, the tracking line is 33 feet long. Yeah. You cannot get closer to your dog without disqualifying. And they have to just kind of figure it out on their own without any guidance from you. So when you come to a corner or any kind of a cross track or a difficult spot, the dog, the way I've been able to teach confidence is just little baby steps, right? So teaching road crossings, like that they can cross a road, they can cross a ditch, they can go over an irrigation line.
Yeah. Oh, those are so hard.
They are. And Finn just had one in the last trial. It was unexpected. I didn't expect it. And here he is having to just go over this irrigation line.
Yeah.
And keep on tracking and motoring down the track. So putting obstacles in like that and not sweating the small stuff, knowing that training sometimes is not pretty. And if it's not perfect, it's okay because we are pushing our dog. It's okay that the dog is struggling a little bit, but you have to remember to make sure that they end on a good note, that they're really happy about what they did and that you end positively. So if you're in a training scenario, if I'm going to be teaching a road crossing, I would do an easy portion. I would make a hard sandwich, right? So easy portion, do a road crossing and end easy. So that way they struggle in the middle. They're given a lot of reinforcement for making the right choices. And then they get to end on an easy track or easy leg or whatever that the case may be. So then that just becomes harder and harder. Then you expect more and more. They have to go up a hill. They have to go through a parking lot. They have to, do different things like that. They have to cross a road where cars actually cross and be able to deal. And so just having that in mind allows the dog, I think, to really know that, okay, this is tough, but I have these tools in my toolbox because I can solve this problem, and they'll just do it.
When you said in the beginning, you want to be able to see your footprints, how are you doing your foot? Is it like a really dug in kind of thing? So you know exactly where they are for your puppy? Or you have like GPS, or like, how do you know exactly when they're in it?
Good question. And
big enough pieces of hot dog?
Yes. So with a baby puppy, I really try and make it as simple as possible. Because in all reality, we're just following a trail. They're just following a trail of hot dogs, right? But I want to make sure that they stay in the footprint. So I'm going to use, to my advantage, the terrain, and like using fresh turf where I can actually see my footprints, fresh plowed dirt where I can see my footprints.
How about snow?
Snow is good too, but I think they can, overusing snow can cause some problems.
Okay.
So they tend to be faster. They tend to not be as careful, but
it seems to really hold that odor. Every time I've done snow tracking, and people are like, oh, it's because they see it. And a lot of times I'll challenge people, get down at the dog's eye level. And depending on the snow, but when I'm down at their level, I can't see it.
Right.
But the odor that it's holding is so different.
Right. And that would be the same as, if I go out in the morning and it's frosty and the ground is frozen, and then by the time I run the track, it's thawed out, it's going to really change the.
Yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
Having that in mind. Yeah. So that's what I would keep in the back of my mind when I'm working a young dog. So tracking 101 is, how do I know where the dog on track is?
Yeah.
Okay. And that is a big responsibility for the handler, especially if you start adding in things like corners. Anybody can follow a straight line, but when you start adding corners, things can get kind of crazy town out there.
And do you add serpentines, and do you also kind of just wander around, or do you primarily just stay straight and do corners?
I do all sorts of things, and I will take advantage of the terrain. So let's say I'm in a nice grassy field. Mostly what I get a track on is like a hay field. So I'm in a hay field and I can see my track because it's a little dewy out, or it just rained. Then I'll do serpentines. I'll do something where I don't have to know, where I don't have to remember where my track is. I can just see it with my own eyeballs.
Okay. If
I'm in a place where I have to depend on my memory of where the track is.
Like clover. Oh, I hate tracking through clover.
It's, I cannot chew gum and talk at the same time. It's not. Right? So holding my phone and tracking my dog isn't a thing. I can't do it. Every time I've tried doing it, even just to video my dogs, it turns into just a disaster. So old school tracking is you line up, you do like a gun sight lineup of where you are, and you have to remember where that is. And so if you're in a field where you can use like a telephone pole and a fence post and line those up and know X telephone pole to X fence post goes to here, then I turn at the outhouse to the barn. Right?
Yep.
And, just work on that. Then you're not going to lose your track. if you are going to go to like I'm going to turn at the yellow flower in a field of yellow flowers, it's not going to work. And I've done that because you're in a, when you're looking at the ground and you're paying attention to what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a great yellow flower. But
that was always my problem when I went to tracking class, and my instructor would be like, you see that those 2 trees over there, they look like a fork. And I'm like, there's 50 trees. Like, what are you talking about? I really had a problem with that. Then astigmatism, and then and then I was off the track, and I'm like, where am I?
One thing I did to as a kind of helping instruct other handlers for tracking is on that Scandinavian working dog. I did one of their webinars, and they had a laser they recommended, and it's a bright green laser. And so that thing, man, during the daylight, I can shoot that all the way across. I'm not good at distances, but like 2 football fields, and hit a tree and say, do you see the laser? Follow it. And so they can follow it as it moves toward that tree. And now they know which tree I'm talking about.
Cheater.
And it's so nice to have that as a tool for my, for my students that I'm helping.
Cheater.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but at least then it's like, okay, so the 2 trees and the one with the little V in the top. No, he just that tree. Got it.
That's what I needed.
Yes.
I probably would have been. I'd probably still be tracking today.
And I could also use the laser to point down the track to say, right about there's where your article is, and then right up there's where your turn is. So it can kind of help communicate, and the dog doesn't see it.
Right. And that would be very helpful. And I try.
And it's a green laser too, so not that it matters. Sorry.
Wow.
Oh, but I will design my track for the area that I'm in. Right. So if there's a boulder, I will turn at the boulder, or some garbage on the ground, I'll lay an article there or whatnot. But I know there's lots of people that will use chalk. They'll use flags. They'll use little sticks. They'll use a variety of, I guess, a plethora.
We used washers, like the giant washers with the flagging tape tied to it.
And those are all good tools. I would caution people on how you use them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because just like with anything, a dog can pick up on it and they'll notice it, and they might associate that with a turn or an article. And so you can, I guess, to combat that, then you use, for lack of a better word, dummy washers, yes. Dummy flags and things. Yes. Maybe a different color just to throw in there.
Yep.
Just to help keep from poisoning your training method, I guess, if that makes sense.
And also thoughtful about the wind direction.
Yes. So I've given up on caring about the wind direction.
Really? Okay, good.
Yes.
No, thank you for saying that. Even in the teaching phase, like in the very beginning.
Yes, even in the teaching phase.
Emily, okay. Tickling my darn brain. All right, go with it. You go, girl. I'm talking to a champion here, so I know you know what you're talking about.
I will note it and I pay attention to it, but I don't worry about it. And the reason is because, like I said, in my sport of Schutzen, tracking is the great equalizer. I don't know what terrain I'm going to be on necessarily. The weather could be different. It's going to be some rando person laying the track for me. It's most likely going to be in a different state that I'm going to have to travel to. My dog might not have seen that terrain ever before. So often I have to drive down to California, which is this very different dirt than what we have up in Washington, which is this chunky, monkey, hard packed clay stuff. And so whereas in the other 2 phases, it's very regimented. You're going to have the same pattern. You're going to do the same thing just about everywhere you go. But tracking, totally different. The conditions are going to be different. The weather's going to be different. The wind could be swirly. You just don't know. So you have to teach your dog to deal with that kind of stuff. So with the wind, I do take note of it. So if I am laying an article where the wind is blowing at my dog's face, I'm going to take note of that. Notice if he's going to be wiggly going up to it and indicate it early, or smell it so that, and often that's what happens, right? They're not dumb. They're going to smell it ahead of time. And then you'll see the dog shifting or even start to check a little bit, and just be okay with that, because that's pretty normal stuff. And then let them get up to the article. I wouldn't get all wrapped around the axle with stuff like that.
When do you start to get more serious about that? Or when do you start to go, okay, well, now when it's coming in my dog's face, they speed up there. So how do you, what do you do then?
That would be information that I need to change something up. Either I need to make it so that, because then I have to think about, okay, this is still number one, an obedience exercise for Schutzen tracking, right?
Yeah.
Still have to keep their nose on the ground. They can't bolt to the article. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
So I would go back to with like Finn, my dogs, Finn and Chubbs, they don't get collar corrections at all. They, not for any phase of the sport. So it makes it a little challenging, but I would, if I knew that was going to be a problem, I would block them from that happening. Or I would put in an interrupter, like a corner. So they have to take the corner and then the article. Or then you can use a piece of food or something to get their nose on the ground, or use a smaller article too. That's another option. So if your article is gigantor and they can see it from Mars, maybe use a smaller article too. And because if that's a known problem for your dog, then that would be different ways to combat that. And that would be the lesson of the day, right?
Yeah. Slow
down, make sure that we have good methodical tracking. And if that means I got to change things up to reinforce the footstep tracking, that's what that means. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And when you said the articles too, when do you, or how do you introduce your articles into your track? Do you teach them separately? How do you do that?
Oh, good question. So I teach them separately to begin with. And right now I've got a young dog that I'm training for a friend of mine, a little Dutchie named Tosca, and she is adorable. And so right now she's learning articles off the track, and she's learning tracking separately. So 2 different lessons completely. I don't ever want to lump the lessons together. I want to split everything down. So that way, when I eventually put the articles on the track, I'm not having to teach that skill on top of teaching tracking at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with the articles, they have to be, and in this sport, again, being sport-based, a lot of your points are at the articles.
Yes.
It's, so if you mess it up there, you're going to have problems passing. And so I want to make that a really strong muscle memory. I want to make that a really good obedience exercise to go find the article, down on it, indicate it. That way, when I put it on the track, it's not this big shocker for them. What will often happen after we've gone doing these puppy tracks for a while, and their dogs are finding, the footstep tracking, finding the hot dogs in each footstep for 7-8 weeks or so, and we put an article out there, it's like, oh, what the heck? And it might take them a little bit to adjust to that. It might not. It depends on the dog. But if they've already seen it, and I usually start at the very end, I'll put one at the very end to indicate the end of the track, and then see what happens. And then eventually I'll do just article tracks. So I try and build a lot of value into the article, because ultimately that is the name of the game, is finding the doggone articles. And if there's high value in finding the articles, they're going to hopefully get to the end of the track, right? So that's what they're aiming for. So if my dog is struggling on the track and he can smell the article, he knows where it is, he's going to continue to, I guess, pretend to track, and I don't really care. The article and then find it. Okay. And that's it adds as a stress reliever, as a reinforcer. So I use the articles a lot for like a chill out time. If they have had a really hard time, if the conditions are very difficult, like if it's hot, like in Washington, hot is like 85.
It's all relative, right?
And that can be pretty hot.
So
maybe not Missouri.
Well, and I always think too, the ground is always too much hotter. If you're doing 1600 paces and it's 85 degrees, and here the humidity gets so high. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is so hard on them.
Yes.
So being thoughtful about where you put the articles to give those breaks, that's a pro tip.
Yes, very much. And they're not just, and so I guess at this point in, especially at the FH level of dog, and that's in Schutzentalk, that's the master level, I guess you could say. That's the level that I should say with Finn, hopefully what we're going to do is qualify for the world team. And that's our big goal. That's the level that we have to train at. And that's the level that we have to trial at, is this very high master level. So at this level, there are, like I said, 7 articles, many, many acute turns. There's a bunch of corners and a bunch of cross tracks. And they have to, so when you're teaching acute turns or difficult turns or half circles or these weird complex behaviors that you have to get the dog to do, putting an article in a place to reinforce the good stuff is very helpful. And that is a very good confidence booster. Going back,
I love that.
The road crossing, trick I learned from Shade was putting the article in the middle of the road. I also like putting an article on the other side of the road. So that way they can get the idea, if they can just get across, or a ditch or something that is an obstacle to them, that if they, once they get across, boom, there's their article, they can chill out. I feed a lot there. I've seen people play ball there and then restart the dog, especially, in training. So that's the time for them to chill, to catch the breath, because there's a lot of snarfling that has to happen up until then.
And then how do you build your dog's endurance though? So you kind of said the easy, hard, easy within your track. Do you also do that? So this is an easy track and my next track is a hard track and the next one is an easy track. Do you also do it that way?
I can. Yeah. So especially if I find that my dog just had a very difficult track for some reason, I'll make a point to have an easy track. And vice versa. If I have a really simple track and my dog's body language will tell me that it's easy, he's really very, I guess, easy to read. I'm sorry, but he's not really concentrating. His tail's up in the air. He's just goofing off and being kind of loose. I'll make a difficult track for him where he has to actually concentrate. He is a dog that does better in hard conditions.
Okay.
And he kind of, he gets a little goofy when it's too easy.
So that's what people complain about sometimes when they come to our trials, because we have just beautiful sod that's just, you can see every footprint. I mean, it's just gorgeous. Yes. And some people will say, well, yeah, you should have a 100-point score here. And some of the dogs that are excellent trackers struggle.
Yes.
Because they either want to run it because it's just so easy. And it presents different challenges. So I think that's also important to note that what you think might be easy may not really be, sport-wise, what's actually easy.
Right. And making sure that you don't train in the same. So I guess the takeaway would be, if you want to compete, to go to different fields, drive to those different fields, drive to the different conditions, the different terrain, and train on those conditions, train on those, train on turf, train on dirt, train on pasture grass, and let your dog get used to seeing those different scenarios. So that way, when they're used to traveling, they're used to being in different, not on their home field. Is often, especially in a club. Yeah. It's easy just to get sucked into only training on your one happy field, but really make an effort to go out. And, try and get out in different fields. And like the WDC, where Finn won, that was on winter wheat. We had never seen winter wheat before. I remember asking the folks there, like, what does it look like? What am I getting into here? Like what, like I didn't know. We don't have it. It's not a thing out here.
Yeah.
And, it was quite difficult.
Can you describe it?
It was, well, if you can imagine a hard packed dirt field,
almost clay,
a
lot of clay
with rows of, I'd say waist high. At this point, it was waist high wheat grass, which was in these very narrow rows. So you had dirt going through these wheat rows.
Wow.
Basically, it was.
And how dense was the wheat? Like, is it like if you step on it, does it crush and break, or does it stand back up?
It stands right back up.
And then when you say the rows, how close are the rows to each other?
I would say they were about 6 inches apart.
And then, so is it like 6 inches to each plant, or is the rows are tighter together?
The rows are tight. They were, if I recall, they were, maybe a plant every inch or so in these long rows, but they were the rows themselves were 6 inches apart. So you had these big expanses of 6 inches to a foot, big expanses of dirt, and then a little green, and then dirt and a little green. It was hard.
That's going to be tough.
And did they lay the track within the rows? So do they go with them, or do they go like against them?
Against them all over.
Yeah.
Wow.
So again, you have to be like, all right, this is cool. This is different. And
so I love your attitude. It sounds like you always kind of go into this like, all right, here we go. Let's do this.
Yes. And that's, I guess, what you got to do. Because when you are trialing, and I'm sure this is the same with any sport, really, the trial day, you're not training. Training's over. This is the day to see where you are, see where the holes are, and just have fun. And know that it's not going to be perfect, probably, but we're going to learn from them and do better next time. And as it's my job as the handler to try and set my dog up to be the best that he can, and to have the best confidence that he can, so that he can do well. And I feel like he feels like he does well.
That's awesome. And so being this national event in this winter wheat, for instance, how many, so like breed wise, were all the other dogs German Shepherds, or what other kind of dogs were you competing against?
So at that trial, I want to say there were maybe 1 or 2 Rottweilers, and the rest of them were German Shepherds.
Okay. And this one is a little different because it wasn't all 3 phases, but this one's a little special.
Right. So unfortunately, the United States only has one competition where we have an FH championship, a master level tracking championship for Schutzhund dogs. And luckily, USCA, they host that, and it's an all breed event. And so they have the IGP, or the Schutzhund 3 dogs, at the same event, and then the FH dog championship. So Finn was the Border Collie, and
the Border Collie,
and he what was really cool, and I think I want to say he's the first Border Collie to win a championship in USA.
That's incredible.
Nice.
Championship in USA, and then this year we came in third, first and second tied. So we came in third with a 94. So that was pretty exciting.
Wow.
That was in Columbus.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Congratulations.
Thanks. And it's all him. He's a rock star.
Oh, yeah. You need to take some credit here. Knock that off.
Rewind that one. Rewind that.
But a lot of it really, and I know we're probably going over, but a lot of it really is teaching the dog to be able to solve the problem and be able to have the confidence to do it on their own. And
I'm curious, what do you think with the other competitors, being the only Border Collie with all of these other Rottweilers and pointy-eared dogs? Did you get any sense of them? Were they all very congratulatory, or were they like, because it sounds like it was a really, really hard event. Is that something bad to ask? I don't know. Because I can also see, like, I just know sometimes it feels unfair, when somebody comes into something and it's like, well, I did all this and so what kind of vibe do you get, or how does that work?
Well,
I mean, because it's the off breed, and here you are, like sweet Emily, and here saying I'm going to have fun. I don't think is that the attitude of most competitors? Do you think? It's not what I've experienced.
So I would like to think that a lot of competitors truly are out there because they are sports people, and they just like the camaraderie and supporting each other. There are always, I would say, sour apples out there. And
that's probably any sport for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And to say that there were maybe feathers ruffled a bit is, I guess, fair.
Yeah. The cute little Border Collie taking the trophy.
And, and I guess the other aspect to that is when I went to that trial, the last time I trialed in a USA national event was in 2002. So I wasn't really a known person at that time. And I did that with a Pitbull, actually.
Of course you did.
And so, these sports, they can tend to be a little bit tribal. They tend to be a little bit, maybe assumptions can be made, or people do make assumptions, but
it's hard to be unknown with an alternative breed, I would think. I mean, I think there are expectations when there are big names that big names are going to go in and just win. And it's just a very easy thing to assume.
Yes, I think that's a big, big thing. And unfortunately, being out in Washington, we're rather disconnected from a lot of the events. A lot of the big events are always in your neck of the woods, the middle, Midwest, East Coast. And so and I drove out to Missouri for that event. So that was, 3 days one way.
Wow. So worth it. I'm so glad you came.
Wow. Seriously.
But it's one of those things where, I think, I did hear some disheartening comments at that trial regarding my dog and his ability, and maybe some of the things that were, people probably didn't realize necessarily. I'll just say, given the benefit of the doubt, they might not have realized that who I was or what I was, or any of the things. So, but. And if I were younger in the sport, if this was my first big event, I probably would take it a little bit more personally with some of the comments I heard over there. But the good news is that a lot of the people that put on that trial were absolutely amazing. The track layers were phenomenal. The judging was phenomenal. And the vast majority of the people out there are good.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
So with an alternative breed, you're going to run into the snarky, the not so nice. But
any tips for people that are listening of how you kind of use that to your advantage, or how you kind of get past it?
I went back the next year. I got back on the podium, and so
mic drop right there.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. It right there.
Just go back and do it again.
And so I guess it's hard. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It's not easy hearing comments about you or your dog that's not really the nicest thing.
Yeah.
But
do you think that you take it from a place where, because they don't know you, and then it's them kind of dealing with they really are very competitive, and it's probably not a personal thing, but it's more of them dealing with their own, they wanted that win, they wanted that notoriety, maybe?
Maybe. That could be it. It could be that, that this is, very vanilla. But one of the comments that I heard, and I just had to laugh at this, about this, and a gentleman who is absolutely the nicest person. And he was quite genuine when he asked me. He found me in a Starbucks, of course. And he was like, man, I know why your Border Collie won is because Border Collies just always have their heads down and they just track with their heads down all the time. I'm like, okay, thank you very much.
Oh man.
But it's more or less,
That's
so
a backhanded compliment if I ever heard one.
So when I think Border Collie, I actually think a dog that uses their eyes more. So I was even more impressed that being a Border Collie, because I'm thinking the whole stalking, creeping thing, it's more eye oriented. So, that's where I was asking earlier, like the difference between training your Border Collie versus now your Pitbull versus your German Shepherd. What have you noticed you've had to do differently? So
the Finn is a little bit more, I guess, sensitive to me in that he, as a handler, he was a little bit more sensitive. But honestly, I train him the same way I train all the other dogs. Basically, is you're just going to go out there and do this job. The only difference is that not getting the collar corrections with him and with Chubbs too. She doesn't get them. It's I've had to really alter how I train to make sure that I am using reinforcers in a thoughtful manner, and that I'm using, and I'm more thoughtful about my training so I can set them up for success, and I don't have to correct them, I guess.
Is there a certain reason why you decided not to use them anymore? Were they not successful for you, or?
The corrections?
Yeah.
I think what I found is that it wasn't necessary. And if I set up the problem so that way I didn't have to correct them, then there was no point in correcting them, I guess. So if I was able to split down the behavior in such a way that I didn't have to make a correction and they were just able to do the job, then I feel like that was the whole point. That was the being successful or good training. And I feel like I'd be rambling a little bit. But.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I do have a question with that though. So a lot of times you'll add corrections for the corners to teach those. Mm-hmm. Not you, but I'm saying just in general. So then how would you teach the corners without using the corrections?
Well, I think where some people get a little bit astray is that they'll go straight into a 90-degree angle. And personally, I think that we should back up the bus a little bit and see if our dog can do a curve. Can we do a curve, a gentle curve? And then can we then start to get that curve into more of an angle, and then eventually an acute angle. And if the dog tells us no, they can't make that gentle curve, then we have no business putting them into a 90-degree angle, which is required for most of the sport levels. And where I find that people get then discouraged and need to use a correction is when they go straight into a 90-degree turn, the dog blows the corner, then they freak out and it's like, oh man, now I got to fix this. Now I got to correct the dog. And now a dog's blowing corners, and it turns into this big monkey mess when maybe the dog just needed something easier. Maybe let's go back a little bit. Let's just make a gentle turn and then gradually bring it down to a corner. Why are we throwing them into the deep end when they can't even get through the shallow end yet?
Yeah, slice that down. I hear you.
Yeah. So that's how I combat that. And then also I've used the articles to slow the dog down. I guess not necessarily like a half halt, but I think of in my mind of an article sometimes as a half halt, like, whoa, organize yourself. There's something coming up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. I like that a lot. And especially when you said changing the size of the articles, do you also bury articles?
Yes, I have, but you want to make sure that you know where those buried articles are. So you can, that we don't walk over them or lose them in a field.
Someone told me the advice of, if you're not willing to put like a $20 bill out there, then you're not, and you can't go back out in the field and find it, then don't do it. I was like, oh yeah. All right. That's a lot for me.
Yes.
So we usually at the, as we're kind of wrapping up, we always kind of like to get takeaways. And so I'm going to let Stacy start with hers to give you a chance to think about it. But what do you want people to get from everything you've shared? And then Stacy and I will kind of talk about, what we've got out of it. Stacy, what's your takeaway?
I'm just like totally blown away. And honestly, for me, I want to go out and teach my dog how to track, not necessarily footstep tracking, because I think that's just psycho. Based on what you're saying, like I'm sitting here going, hey, like tracking sounds like fun, other than all the psycho stuff. But hey, I am so impressed. But I think what it really comes down to is just really kind of amazing what we can train the dog to do. And when you have a dog that has like kind of more of a natural tendency in terms of how they want to go about, using their noses, and then we kind of basically tell them like, no, well, we want you to do it this way. I think it's just amazing how they can adapt to what I like to call our silly human rules, which is really kind of like what we do with a lot of our sports, right? And I just find it absolutely inspiring, and just it's absolutely been so inspiring just listening to you and learning a little bit more about all of this. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
I feel like I have a lot of takeaways. One of them that you said kind of early on was about having your group of people, kind of your tribe. And I know you were also a helper. And so that puts such a beating on our bodies. And I do remember once at physical therapy and they said, so other people do this too? Like
on purpose.
And so, knowing how hard tracking can be and to find other people that, want to go out there and spend hours, just watching the grass grow sometimes.
Yes.
It's so important though. And when you said about, really, you really said trust your training and let your dog use their superpowers. And I'm totally going to go do that now and not worry about, I'm just going to have more fun. I think you've inspired me to have more fun and be a little more, let's let the dog figure this out a little more and not micromanage. So that's the takeaway and the inspiration you've given me.
Fantastic. Yeah. Big potatoes, not small potatoes. Yeah.
And what's the takeaway you'd like to share with everybody?
I think my biggest takeaway is, so for sport tracking, for the ridiculously difficult sport of Schutzhund, is don't give up, keep going. I tried quitting the sport a couple times. It didn't work out because it gets in your skin. It gets in, I just have to do it, but
it just sucked you right back in.
It does. But I guess what makes this sport great is the journey. And a lot of the training that's where this is fun. It's the training, it's meeting the people, it's traveling to, like meeting you, Crystal and Nancy. I never would have done it without this sport. And just find the people that you really enjoy training with and keep them close. And if you're in a situation where you're not having fun, then maybe reevaluate going to a different group or figuring something else out. But it should be fun. You should want to go wake up at 5 or 4 or 3 and go track it out. Right?
And Stacy just went, wait a minute.
I'm like, I do that every weekend.
Yeah. So
yeah, it is.
You said about finding your people. How can people find you? How can they train with you? Is that possible?
Yes, it is possible. I'm starting a little tracking, I guess, training forum, I should say.
Nice.
And it's
okay. Sign me up. Take my money. How do I do it? Everything you've said, you've given me little tastes of things, and I'm like, no. I want to know more about your SAR career. I have so many questions.
I'm just here. I'm like, sign me up too, but I don't want to do that crazy footstep stuff. But yeah.
So clearly, we'll put this on our Facebook page and the show notes. But how can people find you?
Well, so you can follow Finn on Instagram. He's got his own little page. It's FH_Border Collie. And you can find me on Facebook. I have a semi-public page under Emily Conchetta. And I have a private group for tracking. It's called Bigfoot Dog Training.
I love it.
I am in the Pacific Northwest, and
that's quite.
It's great.
And Bigfoot tracking. So, we don't actually track Bigfoot, so I just put that. So.
You might get the wrong clientele.
Yes.
When I signed up to find Sasquatch. What can they expect in your group?
Well, what I have right now, what I'm trying to do is I have a young dog, like I said, Tosca. She's with me to learn foundation tracking. So I am trying to put out videos, unedited training videos of her doing beginner tracking stuff so people can follow along. I offer lessons in my area twice a month right now while I have time. And so you can, if you're in the greater Pacific Northwest, you can come out and do that. Or I'm also considering doing some video training as well. So you can post videos to a page, which I'll get organized for, and do virtual coaching, which I think is the best way to do this. So.
Fantastic. Oh, I can't wait to learn from you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This has been so fun.
You spent so much time with us and we appreciate you so much.
Seriously.
Well, we're going to share all of your contact information and make sure that people know how to connect with you.
Okay.
And again, thanks for the Canine Detection Collaborative. We appreciate you so much for being here. And we look forward to seeing how all the people respond to this and all the questions they're going to have, and make sure that they get out there and if they're not out there already, like physically, then at least virtually, they'll be there with you. Okay. So for our listeners, thanks for listening. And make sure you head over to canidetection.collaborative.com and check out all of the stuff we're going to share in the show notes and then on our Facebook page and Instagram. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you back next time.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.